This is the Pro Audio Suite podcast. Quick Bites.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite Quick Bite, thanks to Harlan Hogan's Portabooth Pro and Rode microphones. George.
How about gear? Any gear predictions for 2021?
Or gear predictions?
Gear predictions.
I reckon there's gear predictions, and I because I'm just watching everybody, all these companies getting heavily involved in plugins, but then building hardware to run the plugins.
Well, you think SSL have got something up their sleeve, don't you?
I reckon they have. PreSonus are really pushing hard at the moment as well.
Yeah.
Avid Carbon.
Avid
Carbon.
Yep.
There was just a live demo from my local dealer here. I didn't get to watch it, but it's if that can trickle down to become accessible and affordable, is that a good thing for the voice actor? It's obviously a good thing for the producer.
Is that good for the voiceover actor?
Yeah.
I think the voiceover actors, I've always had the opinion that less is more.
Me too.
And I honestly think that the whole Apollo thing is too much. Obviously, we're not down with all the processing anyways.
Right.
And so I think there is something to be said for, I don't know if I go all the way to the USB mic. I find that a bit too limiting. I think that Apogee is a good company, and so they probably put together, I've not heard the Hype mic and those other ones, and it's probably very good, but it's not the first place I reach because I like XLR cables, but I don't think that all the routing and all these features are necessary in the voiceover side. I think less is more. So I don't know that any voiceover person needs something as like an Avid Carbon, but right. I do think that Avid Carbon is a very good answer to the whole Apollo thing. And it's interesting to see what they do with it. And really, if Avid, where Apollo's marketed themselves really well is the plugins and how good they sound. And they really do sound good. But if Avid can bring that clout to their DSP platform and have a line of plugins that have that same, like, it just sounds like the actual piece of gear, I think they really have a winner with the Carbon box. It looks good. Looks 32-bit.
Price point wise, $4,000.
Yeah. So what they don't have is like a Carbon Twin. That's what they don't have.
But you know what? Apollo didn't have an Apollo Twin in its first year either. They had a rack-mounted 2-core 4-mic input unit, and I installed a couple.
And how much were they?
Knowing full well we didn't need it. They weren't $4,000. I'll tell you that. They were like maybe $2,000, $1,500 maybe.
Right.
So
it's
spendy.
Yeah, it is spendy, and it's not for everybody. I don't think. I think it answers that I need to have hardware DSP. I want to have all this predictable performance without worrying about my CPU. And I want to run it in Pro Tools, because the problem with UA and Pro Tools previously was that all those UA plugins in Pro Tools had a lot of latency because they weren't actual DSP plugins as far as Pro Tools was concerned. They were DSP on the UA, but that wasn't inside of Pro Tools. So now, really, I would argue that if you assume that the plugins sound just as good, which I know many people are going to argue about that, but if you make that assumption, then I think Avid Carbon has a better platform than if you're talking specifically about Pro Tools. And it's no surprise that you have something like Luna coming out from UA, because now Luna is that DAW with their DSP stitched into it directly. And yeah, it's exciting to see the competition.
Well, I've got another one for you.
Sure.
Microphones, modeling. Mic modeling is happening for a while now. The Townsend Labs Sphere L22 is amazing.
The Antelope.
It's happening. So I was going to bring up the Antelope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Antelope makes a $1,300 USB mic?
Yes, it's their, what is it? Their mid-level, it's like their mid-level, not stereo.
It's called the Edge Go.
Yep.
It is a studio and a microphone. And it's as they call it, the world's first smart USB mic that combines the ease and convenience of a digital mic with the flexibility and sound quality of an entire recording studio.
And I
think is going to happen next year is the affordable version of this is going to trickle down and hopefully be made by Rode or Apogee or some other much bigger, better supported company than Antelope, because I like Antelope's innovations. They have unbelievable innovations. I mean, their stuff it's really next level. Like their stuff is like a year to 2 years ahead of everybody else in terms of innovation, but they're
Clocks
just a
and,
really tiny company, I believe in Bulgaria, who has a hell of a time getting stuff fixed for people when they need it. You know, support is a big problem. And that's a shame. You know, it's like if they can get that, if they can amp up that support layer and have better support for their repair techs. I happen to personally know the guy in the US that fixes anything for Antelope Audio.
All of it.
All of it. And he's like, if anything goes wrong, I have to wait for a board to get shipped from Bulgaria. That's all I can do. I think this is another future prediction. I think these modeling mics that are just all in one USB are going to become affordable and more widespread.
I do know of, similarly, we talked about the Apogee being used by like a major company and sending out kits. I do know that another company went with Antelope.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And so, I think they have one they have one in like the $600 range too that does some modeling, don't they?
I believe it. It's interesting. You know, I stumbled on the $1,300 one. I was looking for their USB mic. Maybe they have a cheaper one that's also USB.
I think they do.
I don't know.
I think they do, because I think it's a question if it's dual diaphragm or single diaphragm, and they have a single diaphragm modeler that's kind of like the Slate, whereas the Townsend is dual diaphragm and really can truly properly model because of that.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we've proven at this point that we can miniaturize and make a mic preamp and an AD converter and a headphone monitoring output, and all that stuff can go in a mic. I mean, that is not really a problem anymore. The problem is it something you want to use, and is it not a pain in the ass to use because everything's so miniaturized?
Well, I have a question about A to Ds being in microphones. And so you think about it, everyone questions the USB mic preamp. Can it be that good? Maybe not, because of the power source, right?
Right.
But then how did Neumann do their digital mic that spits out AES directly?
It's powered over the AES cable.
Is it?
And then that is plugged into a power supply. Yeah.
Okay, so it does have a proper power supply.
Proprietary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty proprietary.
So maybe.
But that really was the first Neumann, digital mic. Now the current digital mic from Neumann isn't really Neumann, it's Sennheiser. It's called the MK4 Digital. And it's basically an MK4, which is actually really good mic. I call it the Junior TLM 103. I mean, it's really, really similar sounding. And then it has a USB plug on the bottom, and the innards are made by Apogee. So you're basically buying an Apogee USB mic, but with a Sennheiser capsule. And that's the MK4. And,
and what's the price point of that?
That's a lot of money. $400 is a lot of money for a USB mic that has no monitoring. It has absolutely no internal monitoring.
That's the flaw. Right? Yeah, you need that.
So there's an intersection between that $400 mic and this Antelope. Whatever it's going to be, I think it's going to come next year.
You got to have monitoring on a USB mic, because if you don't, you have no option to bring your own monitoring to it. It's got one output, which is guaranteed to have latency on it because it's USB.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that would be something interesting to see.
Mm. Yeah, it is interesting. Rode. What will Rode do?
Certainly targeting, and have been for ages, podcasting and vlogging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is not so wrapped up in modeling this and that.
Right.
They're obviously designing gear for idiot-proof technology is what they're working on. And
is that why you have so much
microphones
of it?
That work in yeah, good on you, Robert.
Technology. Yeah. Let's call it technology for dummies, shall we?
Yeah, and also for not very pleasant environments.
Dummies. Yeah. I said that.
Technology for actors.
Yeah, dummies. I said that. Yeah, that's
no offense.
There goes half the audience. Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, people that are doing it, and this goes full circle. The whole idea that the actor doesn't have to split their brain into a separate chunk to engineer what they're doing and take that away from the acting and go back to being actors is the key. That's what's going to allow working from home in a home studio, that last, to me, the final barrier to go away. If it's set up correctly, and they know where the mic is and soundproofed and it's ventilated, if they don't have to know what their gain setting is, as easy as it is to us, but still, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about it. And if they don't have to worry about it, they can act better.
Right.
It's just a no-brainer.
The whole point is to make it as much as possible like it was
You guys said the same thing, just slightly
That's
delayed
right.
from each
Yeah.
other.
Yep.
Go, Andrew.
Yeah, if it was like you can probably remember how difficult it used to be to set up and be able to record yourself at home. And if you didn't know what you were doing, it was almost impossible. But now everything's become so much more simplified with USB interfaces and intelligent gear.
Well, there's one other thing that's going to make things easier for actors, and that is going to be equipment that can set the gain correctly automatically for you. And companies have dabbled with it over the years. The only thing I've seen that I've seen demonstrated and tested and shown that it works is from this obscure German company called Yellowtech.
Yep.
They're probably best known
the
for making
puck.
the mic boom arms that come inside the Studio Bricks booths nowadays. But they make those super sexy silver mic arms now you see on every podcast.
Yep. And they make the puck.
That cost
They
a
make
fortune,
the puck,
right?
the PUC, and they make one that has DSP on board, which has a magic trick, which is almost instantly, milliseconds quickly can adjust the input gain on the preamp based on the parameters that you set. So it's not AGC, it's just extremely, extremely smart gain control. And it's extremely rapid and extremely transparent.
So it's a
And-
compressor.
I was going to say it's almost compression. Yeah.
Well, it's almost compression, but it's not, because it's literally adjusting the preamp's gain. So you cannot clip the mic. It's absolutely, unless you clip the capsule. But other than that, you can't clip this mic. And they make one that's a handheld interviewer's mic, like a reporter mic, that has the recorder and this function built in. So you hand it to anybody, have them punch the record button on the mic, and they cannot screw it up. It is a really amazing technology, but it's $1,000.
Did you ever look at the mic limb feature in the Aphex preamps?
No, I haven't. But I haven't.
It's interesting. It's the same thing. You can't clip it because somehow it has a feedback loop on the gain of the microphone. But no matter what, when you do this gain, playing around with the gain, you're going to change the waveform. Market it how you want. It's still compression.
Mm-hmm. But it's compression that you can set the exact parameters at the hardware level. Like you can say, do not dip more than 10 decibels and do not return to original gain. You can set all the parameters. So it's really like, it's pretty next level. I mean, it is behaving, I guess the end result is like a really well designed compressor or really properly set up compressor, but it can do this over really, really wide ranges of gain. I mean, the guy demonstrated it speaking at like almost a whisper to almost shouting. And the thing, when you listen to it back, it's almost leveled. It just doesn't even make sense how well it does it. It's pretty amazing stuff.
I saw a video last night on YouTube. So another one of these, I don't know who he is, voiceover experts telling voiceover artists that they should put a limiter over their recordings before they normalize. In a digital day and age, do we need either? Do we need it? Just leave it alone. And I guess that sounds great, the automatic gain, but do we need it?
It's so funny because it's always like, set your level and be conservative with it because you're recording 24-bit and there's a lot of resolution there and you don't need to be getting up to the edge. And
you have 144 decibels?
144 decibels of range. And now actually going back to that Avid Carbon, they put a 32-bit A to D converter on that thing.
Jeez.
So it's
so setting gain is so 2020.
Well, I'm not saying don't set your gain, but just be conservative about it and let the technology work for you, and you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Please don't normalize your voiceover files. Can I just put that out there? I got one this week. Someone had normalized, and I just went, why? Just leave it alone.
Because then you went into clip gain in Pro Tools and lowered it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's like, leave it alone.
But what about Evo? Doesn't the Evo do a similar thing where
the
you
Evo 4.
give it a sample? Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that. I almost forgot about it. A year ago, this thing came out. It was really cool. It's doing it one time. It's an initial setting.
Who makes
and
this?
Maybe that's perfect. The Audient Evo 4.
Yeah.
Maybe that is actually the right solution, right? Because all the actor does is read some of the loudest passage of their script or do
That's
do
good.
the sound of an orc. And the thing is sitting there listening, going, okay, he's peaking about minus 11. Let me put the gain right here. And then when it's finished analyzing, you're set your gain.
Boom. There you go.
And it does not change after that. It is a fixed setting. It's not varying. So you're probably right, Andrew. That's really the solution.
Hearing what you're saying, I hear a friend of mine who's also an audio engineer got a file the other day, and he could hear, when he listened to the file incomplete, you could hear the room noise getting louder and softer and louder and softer, but it was one complete file. So he rang the voiceover artist and said, look, thanks for your file, but what have you done to it? And they went, and this person went, I highlighted the lower spot, the softer spots, and I normalized that. And then I highlighted the louder spots and I normalized that. So they'd been through and normalized all individual louder and softer bits. And so the thing was just all over the place. And it's like, when you're talking about automatic gain, that's what I hear, is just things halfway through a read jumping louder and softer.
Going
and
all over the place.
all over.
We all have AGC, bad AGC memories.
Yes.
of the video cameras, the release on the AGC on the camera being about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's like,
and then the loud and then volume comes back eventually.
Yeah,
exactly.
The other thing we didn't mention too, which is from Rode, was their VideoMic NTG, which gives you the option to record one channel
two levels
as a normal setting, and then the second channel down by 20 dB or something.
Huh, nice.
That's brilliant.
The old. That's an old
It's
one.
not new,
Yeah.
but it's the fact that it's just built in is brilliant.
So if you clip,
Right.
then you've got a safety.
Right. And the MicPort Pro 2 as well from Source Connect.
Yeah. Geez, they're spreading their wings.
Wow, tell you what,
We have
diversification.
gotten big.
really have.
We're buying everybody. Yeah.
The MicPort Pro 2 from Centrance has that trick as well. It has a safety track
Well-
in a single mic preamp, little tiny wand-sized thingamabob. So,
And the Tascam interfaces have the same thing. The Tascam interfaces that are designed to clip right up on the shoe of a DSLR camera, they have that feature.
the DR, whatever it is,
That one. Yep.
DR70 or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So these things need to trickle down into the interface for the actor that will become commonplace. I can't teach enough people how to set their gain. It's literally every single day. It's just conceptually not something that they just can grasp until it's been taught to them. And
Okay.
I'm not saying they shouldn't learn it. You should have some basic engineering.
I've got a product.
but-
It's just a mechanical thing that can grab any knob, and it's got an XLR input with a split cable, and you plug the output of the preamp into the input of your split, and you attach this thing to the knob, and you press a button,
What happens?
and you say your loudest line, and it sets the gain.
Well, there you go.
That's pretty cool.
See, that's fine with me. In fact, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? You know, it's like, okay, every time I get a file from someone, the gain's always spot on because they've had
The only
this
problem
thing
is
do
this,
it.
because every actor does this. You're like, okay, read me the loudest line. They read the loudest line, and then when they get into the script, it's louder than that. Because they're really getting
that's
into
right.
it, you know?
Yeah. Or the client goes, can you give that line a bit more gusto or something? Yeah.
All right. It's like, so set your preamp and then still set it lower.
Yes.
A mate of mine was sending out Rode cases for podcasting, I think, and he bought 3 or 4 of them to send out to actors. And I can't remember, it wasn't a Zoom, it was something else. I know it was really expensive.
Sound
But
devices.
he loved it because, sound devices. Yeah. And because it would run at 320,
320 kilobits.
32-bit floating. Yeah, so it's floating.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
So if they were too hot doing the session, he could just pull the thing down and it was perfect.
Yep. As long as you don't clip the actual preamp.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're talking about is like a 32-bit A to D that converts with the decimal place so you can move it about.
Yeah, I mean, digitally we have the dynamic range, no problem. It's the analog end, just making sure you never clip that preamp or clip the AD converter for that matter.
Right. But as usual, like I repeat myself, like just stay away from that red line. And
Yeah,
Exactly.
give yourself more room. I've seen video game companies telling the actors peak at around -18. That's actually becoming kind of a standard.
Sure, I can see that with video game companies because again, give me your loudest line, and then you do it, and it's not really the loudest line. And then when you're talking about video games, the dynamic range of that compared to e-learning is gigantic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Imagine doing an e-learning portal or module. Like
Unless you're doing
gaming
e-learning
thing.
about game characters.
right.
Now we'll do the orc.
That's right.
Right.
Now we'll do a fairy.
It's someone sitting there with their
I've
headphones
had to
on.
record Cookie Monster, and it's like Cookie. It's like Jesus Christ.
Right. Love it.
Yeah.
2021, bring it on, baby.
This show was mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging. Edit by Andrew Peters. Using Rode microphones and Source Connect Now. Tech support from George the Tech Whittam. And supported by Harlan Hogan's VoiceOverEssentials.com. The home of the Portabooth Pro.
You look for trouble.